Yeah, recording is started.
Okay, thank you.
Right, good evening, everybody. Hello. And warm welcome from Danut and I to the 7th edition of Scrum Alliance User Group Romania. Today we are not going to have one speaker, we're going to have two. Warm welcome to both Brock and Erkan from your side. Now, tonight is quite special because it seems like we have sort of competition for attention. What do I mean by that? Okay, since we are not interested in spoilers, and we prefer Brock and Erkan over Games of Thrones, let's make the most out of it, right? So it's going to be an interactive workshop. Brock and Erkan, if you can please briefly introduce yourself, and then the stage is yours.
Cool. Thank you very much. And you know what we're going to do? We're just going to go ahead and get started, and then we'll do intros kind of in a couple minutes, if that's okay with you. And I will share my screen. Cool, and thanks for the warm intro, everyone. Really appreciate the energy that you guys are bringing. Okay, cool. So we're going to start this with a little bit of a skit, okay, on an elevator pitch. Okay, so I want you guys to pretend like we're in an office and we're close to the elevator. Oh my gosh, there's my CTO over there, Brock, and he's standing by himself by the elevator. He's about to get in by himself. Now is my chance to pitch an agile transformation. I don't know, I'm kind of scared. Should I do it, everyone? Wish me luck.
Good luck. Good luck.
Okay, that's good. I'll take it. Thank you. Okay. Excuse me, Brock.
Hey, hey, Erkan. What's going on?
Well, I just got back from the Global Scrum Gathering, and you said that you wanted me to bring back the knowledge I gained. So here it goes. Scrum is the next big thing. We seriously need to switch all of our teams to Scrum right now.
Kind of busy. What's this all about?
Well, Scrum is a framework that teams can use to have more fun. You see, it's great because they have these meetings every day to sync up their work. And then every 2 weeks, they have these meetings to plan their work. And then they get together and they refine their work. And then they pull all their stakeholders together and they have these amazing demos. And then at the end of their sprints, they get together and they talk about what went well and what didn't go well and what to improve. Sometimes people cry. Oh man, it's wonderful.
It sounds like a lot of meetings, Erkan. I'm not sure how that could be more fun.
You're just going to have to trust me on that part. But I could use your help with a few things. You see, in Scrum, we don't value planning as much as we used to. And so I need you to let the teams know that it's okay to miss that deadline we have coming up for the user conference next month. And, in Scrum, we don't value contract negotiation as much anymore. So we're going to go ahead and rip up those client contracts we have in favor of a good old-fashioned handshake. And you see, Scrum teams, they're self-organizing. So I need you to let the managers know that the inmates are going to be running the asylum for a little while. That's right, Brock. Just picture it. The heavens will part, the birds will chirp, the choir will sing, and all our problems will be solved. Oh, and we're going to need some consultants for the transition, and we're probably going to need an enterprise Jira license. And I learned at the Global Scrum Gathering that a lack of executive buy-in is probably the reason why our last transformation effort failed. So I'm going to really need you to step in there and lead the charge on this one.
I got to say, that sounds like a lot of change.
So are you on board?
Thank you for your time, Erkan. Here comes my elevator, and I got to take this call. We'll talk later.
Crap. Okay, guys, I feel like that might have been my only chance to pitch Scrum to my CTO, and I obviously blew it. Maybe I could get you guys to help me figure out why. Could we hear from a couple people who are in person in ZTech, and maybe a couple people who are online? Just a couple of the things that maybe didn't go so well in that elevator pitch.
Too many changes.
Too many changes. Yeah.
The CTO needed to do something himself.
Yeah, I put a lot of the pressure on to change on him. Yeah.
It's all my fault somehow.
No clear benefits.
No clear benefit. Yeah.
Extra costs.
Sorry, what was that last one?
Extra costs.
Extra cost there.
Oh, extra cost. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of cost to the organization. That's a great one.
Too much enthusiasm.
Too much.
Yeah, met Erkan before.
Yeah.
Someone online?
Who bought in. Like previous people who said that they're okay with this, so that there's a more broad movement.
Sorry, I didn't catch that one.
Not that many people who already bought in. So when you try to pitch your idea, you should have some other people who already bought in.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you. Cool. So, thanks for the feedback, guys. It was painful to hear, but it's going to help me get better. And so we hope you guys enjoyed kind of starting off this session with what not to do. What we're going to be doing for the rest of this session is walking you through a framework that we use to deliver successful elevator pitches to executives. And we're going to be speaking mostly in the context of Scrum and Agile, but this is a framework that you can use to move anyone to a position of support for any change initiative that you might have. And we're also going to be doing this, as was previously mentioned, in workshop style. So our intention is that you'll each have an elevator pitch that you can use that'll be ready to be delivered tomorrow back at work if you guys choose. And so before we go too far, I first want to just thank Amir and Danu for organizing this event. And all of you guys for participating as well. It's kind of a fun opportunity for Brock and I, especially to get involved with a group that's maybe on the other side of the planet. We want to thank ZTech for hosting the event. I think you guys, I was checking out your website and just looking at that room right now. You might actually have the coolest office I've ever seen. Brock and I were just kind of joking. We weren't sure that door behind you looks like it might be a portal to another dimension. So I think it'd be interesting to walk through that and see what happens. I also want to thank Agile Coaching and Beyond for hosting this event tonight. Pretty cool that you guys are a Scrum Alliance sponsored meetup. And just your mission in general to transform the way Agile coaching is perceived in Romania is something that we're inspired about, and we're honored to be with you guys tonight. We'll also take a minute to introduce ourselves. So Brock and I are both certified enterprise coaches. Oh, I'm getting a little bit of feedback. I'm not sure where that would be coming from. Testing. Okay, it seems to be under control. Great. So yeah, Brock and I are both certified enterprise coaches and certified team coaches through the Scrum Alliance, as well as trained relationship systems coaches. Our company is called the Superheroes Academy. We're based out of Calgary, Canada, and we're available globally for Agile transformation, team coaching, Agile training, and we also offer Scrum Alliance certifications through online training programs. Okay, so let's get right into it. So why is executive buy-in important anyway? Well, quite simply, without executive buy-in, our transformation efforts are going to fail, period. There's a lot of research that will back that up, such as what I've got on the slide here. And what I've got on the slide is mainly in the context of Scrum. But again, there's just as strong research that'll show executive buy-in is just as critical for any change initiative that we might have going on. There's a lot of really good reading out there, and there's a lot of really smart people that will argue convincingly that bottom-up transformation efforts don't usually work very well. Brock and I aren't necessarily of that opinion, but even when we start a transformation effort at the bottom, we're eventually going to reach the top. And we're eventually going to need those executives to buy in order for whatever change initiative we started to be sustained. Another thing to keep in mind is that access to executives can sometimes be very limited. And so you might have an executive that is based out of another office. They only come by once in a while, and maybe even for just a few hours. And when they're there, maybe they're in meetings. So for some people, we might actually only have 3 minutes and one shot in order to get their attention and get them to agree to maybe a follow-up conversation. And so for that reason, having an elevator pitch that is kind of practiced and ready to go is going to be critical for any change initiative that we do. Okay.
All right. So the next thing that's important to remember when we're thinking of talking to executives and pitching ideas is how to approach executives. And one of the things that's really important here is to approach executives understanding that they're people too and understanding the challenges. Are we good there? Okay. Can you hear me now? Am I good?
Yes.
Yes, better.
Thank you.
You're able to hear me now? Yeah? Okay. All right. So the other thing that we wanted to point it's important to have some empathy for them and understand where they're coming from. They have unique challenges and different things that they see in the organization. And so that's a good starting point to really base our pitches from. And so a few things as we think of executive empathy that are important. First thing is that executives often feel alone in the work that they do. And so they often don't have people to confide in or work with directly with all of the challenges and problems that are on their plate. And so that's an important thing just to consider, that having a partner might be something that's useful and helpful with executives. The second thing that I want to point out as well is that executives often have lots of fears and uncertainties. And so anytime that, I've talked with executives and had coaching conversations with them, there are things that come up where they're not sure what to do in certain problems, but everyone is looking at them for the answer and for knowing what to do. And so this can be something that's on their mind and kind of a perspective that knowing that can help you in how you approach the executive. And the last thing that is important to remember when we're talking to executives is that they're people too. And so oftentimes we think of them as, oh, they're running the company, they've got all this education, or they know all this stuff that I don't. But at the end of the day, they're people with families and hobbies and concerns and whatnot. And finding a way just to connect with them on a human level can be another helpful way to start your interaction with them. So a few things there just to keep in mind as we go into creating our pitches and thinking about who are these executives that we are talking to, just a few perspectives that they might have that you want to consider. When we're engaging executives, some of the strategies that we'd want to look at is not being a salesperson. And so I mentioned that partnering idea. And so definitely want to come across like you're in it with them and you're there to help and you have an idea perhaps. But if you're trying to sell ideas, I mean, everyone's trying to sell ideas to executives. So try to partner with them as you approach your stakeholder pitch, your executive pitch. Connecting on a human level and understanding about them as a person, building rapport can be a really helpful way to do this. And so, that'll be something that you want to keep in mind also. Acknowledging the challenges that they face can help. And so, I mentioned a few already, but there's things that they see that other people don't, or things they're responsible for, or challenges that they face. And so, really recognizing what is unique about their role and what are those challenges that they're going to face. And then approaching them as a whole person. So they're not just a title, they're not just an executive, but like I said, they're people like the rest of us. And so really connecting on a human level and approaching them that way is a good place to start from as well. So the tool that we have to gain insight into these executives who we're going to pitch our ideas to is an empathy map. And of course, we have our superheroes version of the empathy map here. And so for those of you who are online, I'll put a link. Actually, Erkan, could you put a link in the chat for everyone for that?
Sure, I'll do that.
I'll put a link to our site where you can download that from. And then everyone in the room, I believe you have printouts, so you can use those. But we'll have an example of this that you can work with. And the idea is we'll take a few minutes and start filling this out to see, what are the things that are important to executives. And so we're going to look at, what are they thinking and feeling? What does your executive hear? What do they see? What do they say or do? And then at the bottom, we have the kryptonite, so the pains that they face or challenges, and then the superpowers. So what do they have to gain, or what advantages do they have when they start out? So something that's important as you're thinking of, like before we get to the empathy map, think of an idea that you have that you want to get buy-in for. And maybe it's something like, having your organization adopt an agile approach, or maybe it's something like how to get a pay raise or anything like that, but some idea that you need support for from an executive. And then once you have that in mind, think about who your executive is and really have them in mind, because we're going to fill out the empathy map from their perspective. Okay. Just to give you an example, we've got another version here of the empathy map where you'll be able to see some different things that you might include in your empathy map. And so we see think and feel. We've got some examples there of what an executive might be thinking and feeling. So there's a big opportunity don't want to miss. Maybe they feel alone, like we already mentioned. There might be specific things that they hear. So from clients or employees, or maybe they hear a lot of excuses from their staff about why something can't be done. They see things happening in the market or in the economy. There's things that they're saying and doing in these situations, and so some examples there. And then some challenges that they might face. So indecision in the organization. Maybe it seems like it takes too long to do anything, and some other examples there. Regulatory requirements is could be always a challenge. And then things that they may have to their advantage. Perhaps, it's a well-funded organization, or perhaps the leader has charisma that is helping in the way they lead. So just some different thoughts for you of things that you might think of or include as you're filling out the empathy map for your executive. And so what we're going to do now is we'll give you a few minutes to fill out the empathy map. And remember, have your executive in mind who needs to support your idea. And then start filling that out. And we'll probably give you about 4 or 5 minutes to do that. And then we'll get back together and start moving forward from there with filling out the rest of the forms that we have. Okay, so go ahead and start with the empathy map and see where you get to with that. Okay, so we'll just give you another 30 seconds or so to wrap that up. Okay, so let's carry on, and likely you wouldn't have had time to finish the whole thing. but it gives you an idea as you start, thinking about your executive who you have your idea that you want to pitch to. Out of curiosity, what are some of the things that you've learned about your executive as you were filling out your empathy map? Any thoughts there?
Doesn't do the things that he says he does, or he wants to do.
Sorry, can you say that again?
He doesn't do what he says he will do.
Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Quite afraid for changes.
Okay. Yeah, it could be afraid of change. Yeah. Matt online says he has more empathy now for his executive on where they are.
I think he's not human, but he can also change his perspective.
Oh. Yeah, that's powerful. Thank you. Good, good. Okay. Awesome. So we're gonna carry forward. Now you have another template there, and we're gonna use that one as well. So that's the Get Buy-in Now worksheet. And what we're gonna do is fill out that first part. And so you'll see there's some yellow highlighted numbers down the side, and we're looking at just doing section 1, so not the whole thing. Now you already probably have the first couple sections figured out, or the first couple parts of that section, where it talks about the idea that you have and who the executive is. And so look at the other things that are there, and I'll give you a few minutes to fill that out. But we want executive have for the purpose of just making sure they're the right person to talk to for the idea. What might they gain or lose, from this change? And then there's another one there talking about their current level of commitment and their needed level of commitment for the idea. Your executive is unaware of the idea that you have, and you need to get them to a point of helping. Okay, and so that's what we'd be kind of looking for there. So again, I'll give you another couple of minutes to fill that part out, and then we'll come back together and talk about the superhero pose. So go ahead and do that. Okay, so let's just check in here. What are some of the ideas that you're trying to get buy-in for?
User experience automation.
Okay, yeah, user experience automation. Yeah, what else? Sorry, what was that last one? I think I missed it.
Workplace entertainment.
Okay.
Gains in product value, so market share and overall image, because we are talking about executives, so the company image means a lot.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, the image or brand of the company, sure. Awesome.
And
Okay.
let's maybe hear from a few online as well.
Sure, yeah.
Feel free to come off mute.
Anyone online want to share what their ideas are? Okay.
We got one here from Bodan. Investment in new tech and user apps. Awesome.
Okay, good. Yeah, thanks. That's excellent. Okay, so the next part that's at the bottom of section 1 that we have to do, we call it embodying your superhero pose. Now, what this is all about is you don't do this in the elevator with the executive because that'll just freak them out. But this is something you would do before you give your elevator pitch. And there's some science behind this that suggests when you do something like this, it brings more confidence to you prior to doing something like public speaking or whatever. And so what this is picking your favorite superhero and what's the super pose that they would embody. And so in order to do this, I need everyone to stand up, even everyone online. This is how we got to do it. So you got to stand up. All right. And you got to do, I don't know, maybe you do Superman or something, but maybe you're going to fly or you're doing one of these strong poses. So you need a big, strong superhero pose. All right, let's see some of those. There we go. Okay, so you feel that confidence just like pulsing through your body now. All right.
Oh, we should have done this before we started, Brock. I'm feeling great.
Okay. Yeah, maybe with your elevator pitch still would have sucked, Erkan. Okay. Good. Okay, so we're good. Yeah, saw some good super poses there. All right. So that's just some of the stuff we're going to do to get ready. All of that we did for section 1 is part of preparing for the elevator pitch. Okay. And so that's all stuff you would do ahead of time. So let's move on and let's talk about the critical minute. And so the critical minute, you know, Erkan mentioned you have 1 opportunity and 3 minutes to gain buy-in from your executive to either have more conversations or to go along with your idea or whatever. And in the first minute of that, we call it the critical minute, you don't have a lot of time. And what you want to do there is to build rapport with the executive. And so again, this is maybe some of that connecting on a human level, but building some amount of rapport with them, creating urgency or purpose around the issue. And so there needs to be, you know, a kind of like a burning issue or a real big purpose. And I think that, you know, the idea about the image of the company, you know, and that kind of thing, like something they would really care about. And so figuring out how to phrase that for the executives would be important. And then the last part is to start with why. And this is an idea that Simon Sinek popularized with his golden circle, where he talks about starting with why as opposed to starting with what. And that's what most organizations and people do is they start with what, which isn't very inspiring and interesting. So I want to start with why as well, all in the first 60 seconds. So this is Simon Sinek's golden circle. And what it tells us is the reason why, starting with why, is important. And what he did in his research is, if you were to take a cross section of the brain looking down from up top, it would look very similar to what you see here in his golden circle with the why, the how, and the what. And what he found is that you know, the what, the outside there, which is run by your neocortex, is very good at you know, compiling and understanding facts and figures and data and all of those kind of things, but it's not inspired, and it doesn't make decisions. So we often think like, well, we have to be logical, and we have to make you know, bring data and all of these things, but that portion of our brain doesn't actually drive our decision making. What he found is the limbic brain, which is responsible for our feelings, and exists in the why and the how of his golden circle model, is where he suggests that we make our decisions. And so, for instance, you know, feelings like trusting somebody come in from this area of your brain. You may have thought of ideas or decisions you've made in the past, and the reason you made it is because it felt right, or it felt like the right thing to do. And that's the words kind of your limbic brain. Your limbic brain has no ability to use language. And so that's why we often come up with like gut feeling type things and ideas like that. And so really targeting the why and sharing that first in that critical minute is very important in order to get the executives to buy in. And so definitely, you know, want to, instead of focusing on what your idea is, focus on why they care. What is it that you believe that will drive them to action? Okay. And he's got this famous quote from his book as well. He says that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And so there's something you believe to be true, and you're sharing that belief in the context that will drive decision and behavior on the part of your executive. Okay, so the next part of our worksheet there for the Get Buy-in Now template, we have section 2 and 3, where we have creating the rapport, figuring out, you know, non-verbally what your communication, your nonverbal communication is saying. So again, these are some things that you can prepare ahead of time and decide on how you're going to approach the executive. And then section 3 is the why, the how, and the what. And this is really the bulk of your elevator pitch. And so we'll give you a few minutes to fill this out. The why, the how, and the what, you might want to keep it bullet form on just your main ideas, because I mean, there's not a lot of space there to fill that in, and you probably won't have time to write the whole thing. But especially that why, think of, you know, what it is that you believe about this idea, or about, you know, the organization that is driving you, such that it will be something that convinces the executive to get on board. Okay, so I'll probably give you about 7 minutes to fill both of those sections out. And then we'll move on with some things not to do from Erkan. So go ahead and give that a shot now. Okay, so I'll just give you another minute to finish up that section there.
All right, so let's call that good enough for now on that section. And why don't we do a quick debrief and just hear from a couple people on what are some of the whys that you guys wrote in your sheet for your executive. And we can hear from people both at ZTech and online. Anyone willing to share their why?
I can share mine, but I don't know. I would say I'm the promoter of the next tech revolution. Something big.
Great. Maybe one or two more?
I said that people are overwhelmed with work.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, cool. Well, two good ones that are sure to get your executive's attention. Thank you for sharing. So what we're going to do next is we're going to spend a couple minutes talking about death moves and antidotes in an elevator pitch. And we call these death moves because the presence of any one of them could potentially send our elevator pitches spiraling out of control. And so the first one is blame, and suggesting in any way that the executive is the cause of our problem is an absolute death move. One of my favorite quotes on blame from a guy named John Wooden says that we haven't failed until we start to blame other people. And so some antidotes for blame are soft startup, which is basically intentionally avoiding any type of toxic communication in our elevator pitch, including blame. Another one that's not listed here, but will be on the resources slide, is Christopher Avery's responsibility process. And this is a great framework that we can use to take personal responsibility for an issue. It allows us to assess where we're at on a scale of responsibility, and then it gives us the awareness that we need in order to move forward on that scale. The next death move is rambling, and the antidote for that is to deliver our pitch low and slow. Law students are actually taught to lower, not raise their voice, in order to highlight certain points and to intentionally slow down the tempo of their speech. This will signal to our listeners that what we're about to say is important and it needs to be retained. So if you're practicing your pitch and you find yourself in a constant kind of nervous stream of words, then just maybe try practicing it low and slow and see what that does for you. The next death move, running at no. It can be a frightful thing for us when we muster up the courage to deliver a pitch and then we hear the word no from an executive. So frightful that maybe we want to turn around and say, okay, pitch is over, I'm just going to go back to work. But actually in one of the most groundbreaking books on negotiation called Never Split the Difference, the author Chris Voss teaches us that no shouldn't be seen as the end of a negotiation. It's actually the start of a negotiation. And so much so that we actually want to go out of our way to trigger the word no in the person that we're talking with, because it makes them feel safe, secure, and in control of that conversation. And so that's why finding ways in our elevator pitch to intentionally trigger the word no in the executive, such as with a question like, is now a bad time to talk? Is always going to perform better for us than intentionally triggering the word yes with a question like, do you have 5 minutes to talk? So don't run away when you hear the word no. This just means that we're in the middle of a healthy negotiation and we're still in the game. The next one is buzzwords. And these are a death move because they make us sound like we don't know what we're talking about. Buzzwords make us sound like we're regurgitating something that we read in a blog or like a self-help book or something. And one of the best ways I know of to remove buzzwords from my elevator pitch is to practice delivering it to a friend or maybe a colleague that's in a completely different industry, or maybe even a child. Practicing our pitch this way will force us to create a language that's a lot more natural to us, which we can then work into our original pitch. And not only will that remove the buzzwords, but it'll have a lot better chance of us actually showing up as our authentic selves and ultimately being more successful when we do ask them to say yes. And then the last one is not being prepared, with a pretty obvious antidote of practice, practice, practice. So, you can do things like prepare answers to questions that the executive is likely to ask, maybe record ourselves presenting the elevator pitch, maybe practice in a mirror. Another good one is to identify allies who maybe know the executive or who understand the context, that are able to kind of validate what it is we're saying, and if the why is going to be as impactful as we're hoping it's going to be. And another tip here is that you can actually write out some notes for your elevator pitch and bring them with you when you're delivering the pitch. People will actually respect you for having prepared. You just don't want to cross the line and do what we did today and have a bunch of slides, because you might actually be in an elevator or in a parking lot or something like that when you get your opportunity.
Okay, excellent. So the next thing that we're going to do, now that you have crafted the bulk of your elevator pitch, you've thought about your idea, who your executive is, you've got some ideas on how to build rapport, we've done our superhero pose, all of these things. So you're ready to give your elevator pitch. And in a moment, we're going to ask you to get into partners, and you're going to share your elevator pitch to your partner, and then they're going to have an opportunity to share with you, and you can give each other some feedback. Now, to be fully transparent here, what we're looking for is, by the end of that time, to have a volunteer who would like to share their elevator pitch with the group, okay? And so we're kind of looking to crowdsource an elevator pitch that you'd like to share with the group. So think of it with that in mind, and give each other some feedback. We're going to give about 3 minutes per person. So you'll be in pairs. You each get 3 minutes to do your elevator pitch, and then maybe a minute to give each other some feedback. Okay. So online, I'm going to create some breakout rooms, and I have everyone in pairs. And Erkan, I have you joining. We have an odd number. You'll join one person as well.
Okay.
And then everyone in the room, I'm going to ask you to self-organize into pairs. Stand up, move around the room, and give yourselves opportunity to pitch to a partner, and then them pitch to you, okay? Okay, so off you go, and I'll open up the rooms, and you'll have about 7 minutes.
And just a heads up, maybe for the guys in ZTech, if you guys want to mute for this section, since there'll be a lot of noise coming from that one.
Okay, and if you haven't already, it'd be time to switch to have your other partner, present their elevator pitch to you, okay? So go ahead and do that now.
Brock, shall we switch partners now?
Yes, please, yep. Switch to the next partner. Okay, so you have about 1 minute left to wrap up your elevator pitch. Make sure you have time to give each other some feedback. Okay, and we're all back. All right, good. So, are we doing that? All right. Okay. So we're all back now from hearing our elevator pitches. Now, what I'm looking for is who heard an elevator pitch that just convinced them to buy whatever that we're selling? Who would like to maybe nominate their partner or themselves to present their elevator pitch to the group? Anyone? Come on, there must have been some good pitches out there. What about online? Anyone online? Oh, I see someone's volunteering a friend. Okay. Awesome. Big round of applause here.
Great. So we'll be role playing, I guess.
Yes.
Nico here will be the chief of my department, and I'll be trying to pitch him the idea to have some workplace entertainment. Well, first of all, you know how we've been overworked in our department, like we've fallen behind on schedule, we've fallen behind on deadlines, we're not delivering value to our...
Yeah, I totally feel it. It's the same for me. We have to make the budgets now and we're in so much pressure.
It's terrible.
So what is it about?
Well, it's all about being overworked. And I think this is not about us. It's about us not being able to deliver 100% on what we're doing. I think the cycle of focusing and then relaxing a bit and then coming back to focus on work, I think it takes too long because you can't really disconnect in our office. It's all work, work, work. And I think we need some place to unwind and disconnect completely.
So what did you thought of?
Well, I think if we had like an entertainment center of some sort, I don't know exactly what form to do that in, but if we had something where people could shorten the path from work to relaxing and then come back to work and have that 10 a.m. mindset that you have every day, like have it 3 times a day, it will totally boost our productivity.
I like that. I like how it sounds.
Yeah, and also you could join us from time to time. You get closer relationship with the team. People get to know you better in a more informal setting. It'd be great.
Sounds like a good idea, but you know, with all these budget constraints, how should I present it? Well, I don't know how to put it in the budget.
Here's the thing. You spend some money on the entertainment, but on the other hand, we deliver more value to our other departments. It's basically a very small investment for massive gains all across the company.
Do you have some specific numbers? Because I have to make an even greater executive summary. And if you can help me with some 2 bullets to put on my slides.
How expensive can a PlayStation be?
That's simple.
Or a football table. Come on, it's something that it's obviously.
I think it's doable. So what should we do next?
Well, I think if we have a slide and you present that in your next budget meeting, I think that'd be great.
Okay, drop it on my email and Monday morning I'll present it in some.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Nice to see you again. And thank you for the involvement.
Awesome job.
Such a nice CEO.
Okay. Well.
Cool. Hey, Brock, is this my section or your section?
Okay, so one thing really quickly there for our volunteers, and here was something real quick. Sorry, am I cutting out again?
I think you're okay now.
I'm okay now? Okay. What I was saying is for our courageous volunteers who were willing to come up and give the elevator pitch, We have a prize for you that we'd like to send your way if you're interested. But perhaps you could give your contact info to Amir or Danu to pass along to us if that's something you're interested in. We have these amazing T-shirts that we would be willing to send to you. So if you'd like that, just get in touch with us after, and we'll make sure that we get that off to you. Over to you, Erkan.
Okay, awesome. So we're going to spend a couple minutes about action planning. We have research by a gentleman named Peter Gollwitzer that shows that vowing to do something, even intensely, is oftentimes not very effective. So every day we plan to and we challenge ourselves to do difficult things, but all too often the next day comes and the next day comes again and nothing happens. What his research found does really help with really high levels of follow-through is creating incredibly vivid, concrete action plans. So when and where and exactly how is what we need to lead to a very high level of follow-through. So when we talk about, I'm going to create an action plan to deliver this executive pitch, I might be thinking about something as vivid as, okay, I know this executive is going to be in my office next Wednesday, for some leadership meetings. And I know that they're going to be taking breaks every hour. And this executive is going to be walking down the hallway by the marketing department. And there's this perfect intersection right by the IT department that he's going to be walking past to get his coffee. And there's a perfect place to talk there. So I'm gonna plan to meet him there, and I'm gonna have a Starbucks in one hand, and I'm gonna have the notes for my elevator pitch in the other hand, and I'm gonna be ready to go next Wednesday morning. And so that's the kind of vivid follow-through plan that's gonna lead to high levels of action. We want to see you guys follow through because we want to see you succeed, and we want to see you drive the change that is important to you. And so we're going to give you guys another minute or two to just fill out the last couple sections there. Section 4 of the worksheet, which is when and where will the pitch be delivered? And then, regardless of what the executive says, because that's not in your control, whether you deliver the pitch is, though. So how are you going to celebrate your courage for delivering the pitch, regardless of what happens after you deliver? So just take a minute and fill out those two sections.
Okay, awesome. So just to wrap up, we have a list of resources here that we've used as we pulled together some of the ideas in our presentation here. Our presentation and those templates are available on our website, and so you can go download them from there and view them if you want. We can post that in the meetup site later for you. And then, we have these elevator pitches and action plans, and Erkan and I are always excited to hear how it goes. And so as you go forward and deliver your action plan and your elevator pitch, let us know what happens. Maybe you can send a tweet to us or an email or something just to let us know how your elevator pitch went and what things you got buy-in for now. Last couple of things is we will be delivering this workshop at the Scrum Gathering in Austin as well. And so we have a survey that we'll send out that we'd like to get your feedback on just how this went, so that any areas that we can improve, we could do that for the gathering when we get there in May. Otherwise, we've really appreciated the time to spend with you guys, your participation in the session, and for the invite to come and join you. And so it's been a lot of fun to hang out with you today. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you also.
Brock, I have a quick question for you, because we started this event with mentioning of Games of Thrones.
Yes.
So I was wondering, how would you get buy-in from the Lannisters?
Well, first off, no spoilers, because I have it recorded at home and I haven't seen it yet. And that's a tough one. Probably lots and lots of money.
Yeah, I'm guessing their why is going to be something around more power or more security around the power that they've got.
Exactly.
Hey, Cersei, I've got a great idea on how you can kill 75% of your enemies. And she'll be like, oh. Then you can get into the how and the what.
Very nice, Erkan. Very nice.
All right. So I'd like to wrap it up. Thanks, Zetek, for hosting us. Thank you both, Brock and Erkan. And I managed to screw it up a bit in the beginning, because I thanked the notes, yet I didn't thank Alex. So thank you, Alex. And that's all from our side. Brock and Erkan, if you enjoyed the experience, please spread out the word. We'd like to have more people joining us, and we'll be happy to host you again in the future. Good luck with having this workshop in the Global Scrum Gathering in Austin.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
For the opportunity, guys.
Absolutely. A lot of fun. See you. And goodbye to everyone online as well. Thanks for joining.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.